Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we're diving deep into the story of Netflix.
Ooh.
Yeah, a company that started by sending DVDs by mail and ended up totally changing how we all watch movies and TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
And get this,
What's?
we're going to do it all based on information from the French Wikipedia page on Netflix.
Oh, wow. That's,
It's going to be interesting.
yeah, definitely.
But we're not just going to rehash the story. We're going to try to uncover valuable lessons from Netflix's journey for all you aspiring entrepreneurs out there.
Exactly, because what's really cool about Netflix is that it wasn't an overnight success.
Right.
You know? It's a story of adapting, taking risks, and, really understanding how users behave.
You're so right. So, okay, let's rewind all the way back to 1997.
Wow, 1997.
Remember dial-up internet?
Oh, yeah.
That was the world Netflix was born into.
Wow.
And the masterminds behind it were Reed Hastings, who's the current CEO, and Mark Randolph. And the story goes that Hastings got this idea when he was super frustrated with late fees at a video rental store.
Uh-huh. Classic.
Talk about turning a frustrating experience into inspiration, right?
Seriously, though, it's like the classic entrepreneur origin story.
Yeah.
But the key takeaway here is that Hastings identified a problem, a real pain point that he and probably tons of other people were facing.
Yeah.
And then he saw an opportunity to create a solution.
You got it. At first, they actually thought about renting out VHS tapes.
Really?
Can you imagine?
VHS, wow.
But they quickly realized that DVDs were the future.
Smart move.
So in 1999, they launched their DVD rental service with that monthly subscription model. And they were kind of like the pioneers of that subscription model we see everywhere today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about Spotify or even gym memberships.
Right.
They all use this model that Netflix basically helped popularize.
Exactly. So they had a good idea going, but things weren't always sunshine and roses.
Oh, definitely not.
I mean, they had some serious financial struggles in those early years.
They did, and you know what's crazy?
Right.
They actually offered Blockbuster Video a 49% stake in the company.
No way.
Yeah, Blockbuster said no.
Oh, wow.
Huge mistake. And get this, Blockbuster even launched their own DVD rental service to try and compete.
Talk about a missed opportunity for Blockbuster. But for Netflix, that rejection was a turning point.
Totally.
So they went public in 2002 and raised a whopping $82 million.
Wow.
That was huge. It gave them the financial power to not just survive, but to innovate and, eventually outmaneuver Blockbuster completely.
Yeah, Randolph ended up leaving the company in 2004.
Hmm.
So Hastings was left to lead the charge into the future of entertainment.
Which brings us to
Streaming.
streaming.
Yeah.
In 2007, Netflix introduced video-on-demand streaming. And at first, it was just on computers.
Right.
But they didn't stop there.
Nope.
They quickly expanded to gaming consoles, set-top boxes, Blu-ray players, you name it. They knew that if they wanted to attract and keep subscribers, their service had to be convenient and easy to access.
Makes sense.
And then came the global expansion.
Oh, yeah.
In 2010, they launched in Canada and then quickly moved into South America and the Caribbean.
Wow.
And by
Oh.
2016,
Yeah.
they were available almost everywhere in the world.
Huh. Except for China.
China.
Yeah.
This global expansion was like a masterclass in strategic planning.
It really was.
They were very deliberate about the markets they targeted,
Mm-hmm.
places that were ready for streaming, had good internet, and a culture of paying for entertainment.
Exactly. They weren't just randomly choosing countries.
Nope. Lots of thought went into it. Now let's talk about content.
Okay.
In the beginning, they focused on licensing popular movies and TV shows that people already knew and loved.
Right. They made deals with major studios and offered familiar favorites like Star Trek, The Twilight Zone, even Star Wars, The Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah.
This was a smart move to start building their subscriber base.
Definitely.
Yeah.
People were already fans of these shows, so they were more likely to subscribe.
Exactly.
But then came a real game changer.
What was that?
Their partnership with Marvel and ABC Studios.
Oh, yeah, that was huge.
This partnership brought us shows like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage.
So good.
It showed everyone that Netflix wasn't just a platform for watching reruns.
Right.
They were serious about creating original content.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2013,
What happened in 2013?
they released their first exclusive original series, House of Cards,
Oh, yeah.
which was the beginning of the Netflix original era.
I remember that.
House of Cards was a big gamble for them.
It was.
It was a big budget, star-studded political drama,
Yeah,
but it paid off big time.
it did.
The show was a massive hit with critics and audiences,
Mm-hmm.
proving that Netflix could create high-quality shows that could rival traditional TV.
Totally.
It's a huge moment for them.
It was.
They started investing heavily in producing their own films and series and creating content you couldn't find anywhere else.
Yeah, like Stranger Things.
Exactly. It became a global phenomenon.
Oh, for sure.
Or The Crown,
Mm.
which won all sorts of awards.
Yeah, these shows really put them on the map as a major force in entertainment.
Absolutely. This shift to original content was a calculated risk,
Yeah,
but it was also a strategic necessity.
for sure, because by owning their content, they could control costs, creative direction,
Yeah,
and ultimately their own destiny.
right.
And that's a really valuable lesson for any entrepreneur.
It is. But they didn't stop there.
No.
In 2018, they started doing something totally unexpected.
Okay, what?
They started releasing some of their films in theaters before streaming them online.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Why would they do that?
Well, it was a strategic move
Okay.
for a few reasons. First, it allowed them to compete for Oscars
Oh,
and attract top Hollywood talent
Mhm.
who were used to that traditional theatrical release.
Yeah.
Second, it created a buzz around their films that benefited their streaming platform.
so they were playing the Hollywood game.
Exactly. But on their own terms. And then there's their venture into video games,
Oh, yeah.
which started with a mobile game based on Stranger Things in 2017.
Stranger Things, the mobile game. That's cool.
Yeah, it shows how committed they are to exploring new ways to grow and offering different types of entertainment. They totally get that the entertainment world is constantly changing, and they're not afraid to adapt and experiment.
They're like always one step ahead.
It seems like it.
Mm.
So that brings us up to where Netflix is today.
Okay.
In 2022, they had over 220 million subscribers worldwide.
That's incredible.
It is. But they also faced their first subscriber decline in a decade that same year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they've introduced a cheaper, ad-supported plan, and they're still investing a ton in original content.
It makes sense.
But they're also facing more competition than ever before.
Yeah, from other streaming services like
Like Disney Plus, Amazon Prime Video, HBO Max. It's a real battle out there.
yeah, the streaming landscape can change so quickly.
It can. So before we move on to the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
what do you think is the biggest takeaway for aspiring entrepreneurs from Netflix's journey so far?
That's a good question. I'd say it's that to be successful in business, you need a few key things. You need a great idea, of course. You need to really understand your audience.
Right.
And you got to be willing to take risks,
Yeah.
but smart risks, calculated risks.
Right.
And you have to be able to adapt to whatever's thrown your way.
So true.
Netflix's story really shows all of that in action.
It does. And in the next part of this deep dive, we're going to explore their strategies and challenges in even more detail.
We'll look at how they tackled things like licensing agreements, competition, and even password sharing.
All fascinating stuff. And we'll uncover even more actionable insights that you could apply to your own entrepreneurial adventures.
Can't wait. Welcome back to our deep dive into Netflix.
We're back.
Last time, we talked about how they went from mailing DVDs to being this global streaming giant, but it wasn't always easy for them.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't a straight shot to success.
No, not at all. So let's talk about some of those challenges they had to overcome.
Okay, like what?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles, especially in the beginning, was figuring out those licensing agreements for all the movies and shows they wanted to offer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Back then, they weren't making their own shows yet.
Right. They were relying on other studios to give them the rights to stream their stuff.
Exactly. And those negotiations could get really complicated.
I bet.
You've got legal teams involved, exclusivity clauses, and the market value of different shows is constantly changing.
It's like a headache.
It definitely could be.
Yeah.
Netflix had to learn how to navigate all of that, build strong relationships with the studios, and make deals that work for everyone.
So it's all about finding that balance.
It was. And then as they got bigger,
Yeah.
they had to deal with even more competition.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Once everyone saw how successful Netflix was becoming.
Everyone wanted a piece of the streaming pie.
Right. Suddenly there was Hulu, Amazon Prime Video.
And then the big players jumped in like Disney Plus.
Yeah. So how did Netflix handle all that new competition?
They focused on what they could control.
Okay, like what?
The user experience.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure their platform was the best it could be.
Yeah, that's super important.
Because remember those early days of streaming?
Oh, yeah.
The technology wasn't always great.
Buffering was the worst.
It was. So Netflix put a ton of effort into building a platform that was really reliable and could handle a huge amount of traffic.
Smart move. If your streaming service keeps crashing or buffering.
People are going to give up on you.
Exactly. And they didn't stop there.
No.
They also really focused on personalization. Think about their recommendation algorithm.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's designed to suggest stuff you'll actually enjoy based on what you've already watched.
It's pretty accurate most of the time.
Right. It's like they know me better than I know myself sometimes.
I know, right?
This personalized approach really set them apart from the competition.
It did.
And it kept people engaged.
But even with a great platform and awesome recommendation, they still needed content that people actually wanted to watch.
True. The content is king after all.
It is, and that's where their shift to original programming came in.
Ah, House of Cards and all that.
Exactly. They realized that if they owned their own content, it gave them a huge advantage.
In what way?
They wouldn't have to rely on those licensing agreements anymore.
Oh, right.
Which meant they weren't at the mercy of other studios.
Yeah, they wouldn't get outbid or have their agreements expire.
Exactly. Plus, they had complete control over the creative direction.
Made their own destiny.
Exactly. So House of Cards was just the beginning.
Okay.
It opened the floodgates for a ton of original content.
Like Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah.
Orange is the New Black.
All those shows became global sensations, brought in tons of subscribers.
And really solidified Netflix as a major player in the entertainment industry.
It's kind of crazy how much original content they've created in such a short amount of time.
It is.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that came with its own set of challenges.
Definitely. Creating high-quality content is not easy, and it's expensive.
Yeah. And there's always that risk that a show won't be a hit.
Right. And the pressure is always on to come up with fresh ideas.
So how do they choose what kind of content to create?
Well, they had to be strategic about it.
Okay.
They tried to diversify their offerings, branching out into different genres and formats.
So they did documentaries, stand-up comedy specials, animated series, even reality shows.
Pretty much everything you can think of.
It's like they were trying to have something for everyone.
They were, but they also had to keep international audiences in mind.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Different cultures have different tastes.
They do, so they couldn't just assume that what worked in the U.S. would work everywhere else.
So what did they do?
They adopted a localized approach.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, they invested in producing original content in different languages.
Oh,
featuring stories and actors that would appeal to specific regions.
makes sense.
They also made sure their platform was available in multiple languages and offered subtitles and dubbing options.
So people could watch in their preferred language.
Exactly. It shows how committed they were to really understanding their global audience.
It's impressive. But I bet all that international expansion was a huge investment.
Oh, yeah. They had to build infrastructure in different countries, hire local teams, and figure out how to market their service in each region.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is. And then, of course, there's the whole issue of piracy and password sharing.
Oh, yeah, that's been a problem for all streaming services.
It has. And in the early days,
Yeah.
Netflix wasn't too worried about password sharing.
Great.
They actually saw it as a kind of marketing.
How so?
It was a way for people to try out the service before committing to a subscription.
Oh, I get it.
But as Netflix got bigger,
Yeah.
password sharing started to become a real problem.
Because they were losing money.
Exactly. They realized they needed to do something about it.
So what did they do?
They started cracking down on password sharing.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
They put in measures to limit how many devices could use a single account.
It was a controversial move.
It was, but it was also necessary for them to protect their business.
Yeah. It's a tough balance trying to keep your users happy while also making sure your business can survive.
It is. And then there are all the other challenges facing the whole streaming industry.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Like the cost of producing content keeps going up. There are more and more streaming services popping up all the time.
It's getting crowded out there.
It is.
So.
And then there's the whole debate about net neutrality.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. That's a big one.
It is, and it could have a huge impact on how streaming services like Netflix operate.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. It makes you wonder, what's next for Netflix?
That's a great question.
And it's a question we're going to try to answer in our next segment. We'll dive into their current strategies, the challenges they're facing, and what we can learn from their amazing journey.
Sounds good to me. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the world of Netflix.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. We've seen how they went from sending DVDs in the mail to becoming this global streaming giant. We talked about the challenges they faced along the way, and now it's time to look ahead.
The future of Netflix.
Exactly. What's next for them, and what can all you aspiring entrepreneurs out there learn from their experience.
Well, one thing that really stands out to me is how Netflix's story is so closely tied to the evolution of technology, especially how we all consume media.
Right, they were born in the dial-up era.
Exactly. Remember dial-up? And then they rode the wave of broadband and streaming, and now they're dealing with things like mobile gaming, virtual reality, who knows what's next.
Yeah, it's like they're constantly surfing a wave of new technology.
They are. But what's really interesting is that they're not just reacting to these trends. They're actively shaping them. Their huge investment in original content has totally changed not only what we watch, but how we watch it.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about binge watching, watching a whole season of a show in one weekend.
Oh yeah, guilty as charged.
That's basically a cultural phenomenon that Netflix helped create.
I guess you're right.
And it's all because they decided to release all the episodes of a season at once. That was a huge change from traditional TV where you had to wait a whole week for a new episode.
Yeah, that's true. I remember those days. Waiting a whole week felt like forever.
Right. Netflix gave viewers control and flexibility, which is something we all want more of these days.
Makes sense.
And it also created this sense of urgency and excitement around their shows. People would talk about them, share them on social media.
Oh yeah, for sure. You don't want to be left out of the conversation.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's not just about how we watch, it's also about what we watch. Netflix has brought back certain genres and formats that were kind of forgotten, like documentaries and those really long, complex dramas.
And they've given a platform to a lot of diverse voices and stories, right?
They have. They've been willing to take risks on projects that traditional studios might not have touched.
And their global reach has exposed viewers to content from all over the world.
Exactly. They've become a global storyteller. But with that kind of power comes responsibility.
Right. They've faced their fair share of criticism, too.
They have. People have criticized their content, their business practices, even their environmental impact.
And they've had to make some tough choices, like cracking down on password sharing.
That was a big one.
Yeah, not everyone was happy about that.
It shows just how hard it is to balance keeping your users happy with making sure your business is sustainable and profitable. But beyond those immediate challenges, there are even bigger trends that are shaping Netflix's future.
Okay, like what?
Well, one big trend is that the streaming landscape is becoming more and more fragmented. There are just so many streaming services out there now.
It's overwhelming.
It is. And for entrepreneurs, this means it's harder than ever to break into the market.
Yeah, the competition is fierce.
It is, but it also means there are opportunities for niche platforms, platforms that cater to specific interests or groups of people.
So instead of trying to be everything to everyone,
you find your niche and you become the best at that.
Gotcha. What else?
Another big trend is the rising cost of producing content.
Yeah, making high-quality shows and movies is expensive.
It is, and streaming services have to spend a lot of money to compete. That's why strategic partnerships, like the one Netflix had with Marvel, are so important.
It's all about working together to achieve something bigger than you could on your own.
Right. And finally, we can't forget about net neutrality.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
It is, and depending on what happens with that, it could have a huge impact on how streaming services operate.
So basically, entrepreneurs need to pay attention to what's happening in the world around them.
Absolutely. Laws and regulations can change, technology can change, and you need to be ready to adapt.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Netflix, what are the key takeaways? What have we learned?
Well, I think Netflix's story shows us that to be successful, you need to be adaptable, innovative, and you need to really understand your audience. They were willing to change with the times, invest in new ideas, and constantly evolve to meet the needs of their viewers.
They also took some big risks, like investing in House of Cards, when nobody knew if original content would work. And they weren't afraid to make tough decisions, like cracking down on password sharing, to make sure their business could survive.
It's a good reminder that building a successful business is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes vision, persistence, and a willingness to embrace change.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But ultimately, it's not just about making money, right?
No, it's about creating something that has a positive impact on the world, whether that's through entertainment, education, or innovation.
So as we close out this episode, we'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Netflix's journey? What lessons resonated with you?
Head over to the comments section of our YouTube channel and let us know. We love hearing from our viewers.
And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future deep dives. We'll be back soon with more inspiring stories and insights to help you on your entrepreneurial journey.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.